Hey guys, how's it going? You're joining me and Mike. I'm Dash. We're here at Collector Legion in Gardena, California, and today we're doing a little Pauper deck tech.
Sweet.
So you were here at Pauper Paradise. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Excited.
So what do we have here? We have a blue-red spells deck.
Yes, blue-red spells, the durdliest of durdly control decks, I guess, that you can have in Pauper. This one's probably not as, you might not be as familiar with it as maybe the blue-black decks. It's playing a lot of the same blue cards, but it's, the red spells instead. It's not playing any creatures, no Mold Drifters or anything like that, so it turns off all of your opponent's removal spells. It wins with this card from Theros, Flurry of the Horns. Or is it Born of the Gods? Whatever. It's a 5-mana sorcery where you put two 2/3 haste minotaurs onto the battlefield. There's 4 of them, and otherwise the deck is just counterspells, draw spells, and some removal spells, and I guess a couple ways to find your Flurry of the Horns. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, I can. So this would punish a deck that would have like a lightning bolt to kill off creatures. Or
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so we all know lightning bolt's a pretty good
Right.
card. You just 1 mana or a single red, deal 3 damage. We're playing some of those. We're actually only playing 3, and you might ask, oh, why 3 lightning bolts? Like, it's the best, isn't it just the best, like, red spell? Yeah, that's true, but we're not trying to win with, obviously we're trying to win with damage, but Lightning Bolt isn't really going to the face as much. I'd rather have the Flame Slash that deals 4 to any creature, even though it's sorcery speed, or like Electrostatic Bolt that has the potential to deal 4 damage against artifacts. And I like the one of Firebolt in place of the 4th Lightning Bolt, just because I get some additional value from it being in the graveyard. And the entire deck has just ways to put, it's so much card draw, like 4 Preordains, just as the card draw suite, 4 Accumulated Knowledge, and that one you don't always see. It's better than the one that was printed in, Shadows?
Yeah,
or whatever.
Inventory.
But, take inventory. This one's an instant. It's 1 in a blue. It's an instant. You draw a card, and then you draw an additional card for each accumulated knowledge in all graveyards. So you can very easily, you draw through the entire deck, and one of the main engines of that is this card from Shadows. It's called Pieces of the Puzzle. It's got Jace on it, so you know it must be good. It's 2 in a blue. It's a sorcery, and you reveal top 5 cards of your library. You put an instant or sorcery or 2 instants and/or sorceries from them into your hand, and then the rest into your graveyard. And because the deck's playing our Jace card, Pieces of the Puzzle, you can't really afford to play creatures because you don't really want to miss off of it. It's a really good spell. 2 mana. Draw 3 spells, or 3 mana draw 2 like spells. It's like way better than divination. You wouldn't just play divination, and you have the filtering too, so you can draw exactly what you need. And then amongst it, the counter suite, the 4 excludes because countering creatures, and then cantripping is really good. 2 in a blue, counter target creature spell, draw a card, and then of course 4 of counterspell. And then just off to the side here, we've got a singleton Dispel, just because instants are so prevalent, and then 2 Deep Analysis. It's the least efficient of the card drawing, given that we can, 2 mana draw 4 cards in a lot of parts of the game, but the fact that, we're often playing from the graveyard is pretty good. And then eventually you just Flurry of the Horns. You play 4 of these, so the deck has the ability to make 8 2/2 hasters, 2/3 hasters, and that big butt is actually relevant a lot of the time.
Right, and well, I see it. Yeah, it's a 2-for-1 right there. So,
yeah, definitely.
So after you do all your 1-for-1s value, and then you do your is this kind of like a Pauper dig through time right here?
Yeah. Actually, that's a pretty good way of looking at it. It's Pauper dig through time. So it's got all of the downsides, I guess. It's it costs 3 mana, whereas often you could dig for just blue. It's a sorcery speed, and then it only does the top 5. But oh gosh, you can have some really ridiculous sequences where it's just. I mean, your opening hands are just some amount of lands. Basically, you definitely want to have blue in your opening hand just to be able to like Preordain, set up your draw, and then like every single card, you're just filtering through your deck, drawing gas. You can answer what is this 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 removal spells. Like you're going to be able to kill whatever creatures that they have, counter the other problem cards. And then eventually you've just stalled out the game so much you could just land a Flurry of the Horns and here's the Minotaur token, and just attack with those. And if you get a couple of hits in, you're doing a pretty good job.
Right. So I mean, the Flurry of the Horns costs 5. So
Yeah.
we're not planning on doing our
Oh no! This
way later.
if you're the kind of person who likes to finish your games quickly, let alone matches, this deck is not for you. This is a very grindy, slow game, and if you care what your opponents think about you as a person, don't play this deck because they're certainly going to hate you. The games just can go for a while, but it's a pretty intense deck.
It looks like it, so it's not to be confused with like a blue-red Delver.
Yeah. Oh no, it's way different. That's more of a tempo deck. This is like a strict control deck with just very few win cons. I mean, you can lose the game pretty. Like there's a series of draws where you just like end up losing the game if they can, like a blue-red Delver deck just like tempos you out. But with this deck, there is the potential where if your cards line up like okay and you have the certain amount of filtering. To be able to get there, you could just answer every single one of their threats, and you're just like, okay. You oftentimes don't even play Flurry of the Horns with 5 mana. You just wait until you have 7 mana, so you have 5 and blue up, and then so that you can like counterspell whatever they play off that, and then you're just so far ahead at that point.
Right.
And then maybe incidentally you have a lightning bolt or whatever to try and finish off those last couple points of damage, and then a firebolt from the graveyard as well.
Right, so it seems like you kind of start out doing like 1-for-1s, and eventually you get to or you're drawing, and eventually you get to the point where you're doing both. So
Yeah.
You're doing 1-for-1s,
Exactly.
and then you're drawing too on top of that.
Yeah, I will say one of my favorite play sequences was I was able to pieces of the puzzle, and I just flipped over like 4 spells in the land, so obviously the land is going away. One of them was like a Flurry of the Horns, so I grabbed that because I needed it. It was at that point of the game. But I was able to like bin 2 accumulated knowledges, and like I don't even feel bad because like the next turn I played an accumulated knowledge and I drew 3 cards for 2 mana at instant speed, and it just feels disgusting. Like there's not much you can do.
So it kind of rewards you in the end for having this whole setup where there's no creatures in the deck, and it's just all instants and sorceries.
Yeah, exactly. You just try and value your opponent out as much. Like it sucks to not be able to play like the best blue creature in Pauper in Muldrifter, but you just don't. You can't take the risk of missing off the pieces to the puzzle.
Right.
It's just too good, and it's pretty relevant. The 3 toughness on the Minotaurs. Just because there are so many removal spells like obviously Flame Slash kills them if you're playing against a red deck. Lightning Bolt kills them as well. But like other red decks that are playing Electrostatic Bolt, it only deals 2 damage to non-artifacts. Like it doesn't kill them. They need a 2-for-1 themselves to kill just 1 Minotaur. Right. And like Firebolt doesn't kill it. You create 2, so I guess like Chainer's Edicts and stuff like that's on, but that's why you often don't even play the Flurry until you have enough mana.
Until you sit back and then it's time to strike.
Yeah.
A lot of people were wondering, and if you can explain this, what's up with the Electrostatic Bolt? What is it doesn't hit players.
Yeah, I mean it doesn't hit players. Like it's shock that doesn't hit players, but like Affinity is such a big, and artifact creatures are such a big component of the metagame that like having 1 mana. Like 1 mana instant speed Flame Slash against the Affinity deck. You're playing 7 Flame Slashes is really with three of which have are instant speed. So it's such a good card in that regard. And just I guess instant speed shock.
Right.
I guess shock to creatures isn't the worst thing in the world too. Because I mean. One time we had it was the mirror, not the mirror match, it was the control mirror. It was blue-black versus me playing blue-red, and I just have all of every single one of my removal spells kills all of the creatures. So I'm like, okay, whatever, just keep going. That game took like 40 minutes, much less like, that was like a 40-minute game. It was awesome, but it was like tiring afterwards.
But those kind of long games are what you kind of expect with this, right?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like I said before, you have to be able to go through and play the game to win.
With artifact lands in this format, we all know what a Mirror Enforcer can do, and I think that's a good answer for it. So it's the kind of the 7th, when you
it's like against Affinity, it's 7 Flame Slash. Otherwise, it's like a slightly worse Lightning Bolt, but that still answers so many things in the format, like kills Delvers, kills any of the other creatures in that deck, and so many other creatures in the format. So it's no big deal.
Okay.
And otherwise, it's just basic, just the blue-red lands that you would expect. You want to make sure that you have all of your colors, but otherwise, besides the 6 mountains and 6 islands, you're playing 4 of the Swiftwater Cliffs because gaining those incidental points of life are super good. 4 of the blue-red, the Izzet Boilerwork bounce lands. Just being able to get ahead on mana, like returning a Swiftwater Cliff is really good. And then just for value, a 1 of Radiant Fountain, just because with the deck the way it is, the mana base, like 2-color mana bases are super easy to accomplish, especially having 8 dual lands. Just Radiant Fountain, even being able to bounce it with the Boiler Works is just like, okay, cool, I gained 4 life. And then just a 1 of Cycler. You could play around with it a little bit, but because the deck has so much card draw, and like because it can operate off of like a million lands, and like it's okay having 8 cards or 7 cards in hand and just playing a bunch of spells a turn. Like you don't. Playing the cycling lands isn't like necessarily a downside. You don't mind playing it as an additional land. Sure, sometimes you'll cycle it,
right?
But like you don't necessarily need too many, and you have plenty of card draw and card filtering, so it's like no big deal anyway.
I mean, the life gain makes sense. A deck like this would just love to gain life. Like,
oh yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, aggressive decks are just like, all right, well, hopefully I draw the right series. Like, hopefully I'm not just drawing a million like counterspells, and they just have the ability to create a bunch of tokens and just like pump all their tokens and you just lose.
Right.
I mean, some of those things are kind of answered in the sideboard. Typical sideboard cards. So if you're playing red, basically you're going to play some number of Pyroblasts. It's relatively limited because you still just want to play all spells for the most part. All instants and sorceries, so pieces of puzzle hits them. But like 4 Pyroblasts, just because against other blue decks you just want more counterspells. You shave a bunch of your removal because their creatures don't really matter, and Pyroblast kills all of the problematic creatures. More Dispels, just because, once again, more counterspells. Right? Yeah, like you just turn into like, all right, I'm just going to counter literally every single spell against my control opponent. Hydroblast against like the Boros Metalcraft, or not even necessarily that one so much because it doesn't really play all that much, but basically it answers opponents' Pyroblasts. Yeah,
exactly.
that's why there's only 2. Yeah, Pyroblasts are coming in against your deck because it shoots all of the important things. Right. So that's what you need. The only 2 like non-instants or sorcery sets of cards I've got. 2 Gorilla Shaman, just because this, exactly, the Mox Eaters, I think that's the name
monkeys,
of it. Yeah, Mox Monkey, there you go. It's a single red 1/1, and it's has the ability XX1, destroy non-creature artifact with casting cost equal to X. And so all of the affinity lands, you just kill them for 1 mana. You're just like, boom, 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 like, have fun playing this game.
And he'll probably stick around because the Terminates are probably coming out against...
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't need all of those gross things. And, like, they're not expecting creatures. Like, they're going to keep maybe some number. I could see their sideboard strategy is often to, like, be more aggressive, so, like, they could shave their removal spells, or shave a bunch of their removal spells, because Flurry still does cost 5, so they're like, all right, I'm going to try and race it and like deal with their counter spells. For those matchups, I actually had some choices for what I was going to, for the last 4 slots. There's 2 sets of aura enchantments, curses, that I decided to choose from. It was either the blue one, Curse of the Bloody Tome, or Curse of the Pierced Heart.
And the Bloody Tome is the one that mills.
The one that mills, yeah. So I decided to go for the red one because oftentimes your opponent's not going to be expecting an enchantment to be coming out of this deck.
Right.
And just that's why playing 4 of them, you can play it as early as turn 2, and you kind of just... You can rely a little bit less maybe on your aggressive creature plan at that point.
Right, because what if they decide in something to deal with this?
Yeah, exactly. Like you're still gonna play these because like that's still obviously a win condition, but you play the Curse of the Pierced Heart and you play the Ultra Control game, and you're just like, all right, cool, come at me. You have it's like a 20-turn clock, but nonetheless, this deck can play like that. It just like answers everything 1 for 1, counters everything 1 for 1, fills up their hands with accumulated knowledge. It does suck because the pieces of puzzle, like sometimes you're just going to mill them over, but like I guess that's the risk that you kind of take. And sometimes you just play multiple of them and you ding them for 2 or 3 a turn.
Right, and just go the slow route and it'll get it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to do the cursed one just because I felt like the milling out plan was it would take a little bit too long. And given the deck is already likely to go long, I felt that the Curse of the Pierced Heart was a little was the right choice. That being said, any blue deck that isn't playing red is also bringing in Hydroblast, which sucks because they can kill the Curse of the Pierced Heart. So that was a consideration. I had to decide between, do I want the blue Curse, the Bloody Tome that mills, and Pyroblast hits it, or do I want the red one and Hydroblast hits it? You know.
So a lot of thought behind this side.
Yeah, exactly. It was honestly the most thought came from these the 4 curses.
Mm-hmm. What was the alternate win condition going to be? Or like, you know, what's kind of the curveball sideboard card?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'm okay if they end up hydroblasting.
Right, because then it leaves you open for other.
Exactly. You know, like it's one fewer counterspell that they have, and you know, I could still fight over it. So I thought it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. Yeah. For me, I don't like players. I don't like players. I don't like my opponents.
No, we don't. Yeah, I mean, in a deck like this, you don't like your players. You're gonna try and destroy the players and the opponents. And it seems like they wouldn't like to play against this kind of deck.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of patience to play something like this.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like I said, I have a 40-minute game. You gotta be able to like think through your lines and sometimes plan out your mana accordingly. Right. But it's also the kind of deck that's built that once you can kind of get over that hump and, you know, stabilize, then you're just like once you stabilize, you're so far ahead, and it's like you're a-okay because you're just drawing you're drawing a million cards. Yeah. Like every single if you cast all 4 if you're able to cast all 4 accumulated knowledges, so you draw 1 card, 2 cards, so that's 3, 6. 10, you draw 10 cards off of your accumulated knowledges, and then like your pieces of the puzzle are able to find you other pieces. Preordains, you know, you draw a card when you exclude, counter a creature, you draw a card. Like you have deep analysis to draw 4 more cards, and there's 2 copies of that. So you're just drawing a lot of cards. If you like divinations and drawing cards, and you're okay with not playing Mold Drifter, you know, give this deck a spin. It's certainly not for the faint of heart. It's not for everyone. Because it's just like I can understand how some people would. I get the sense that you would probably feel like, oh, this deck is stupid. Why I don't ever want to do dumb things like this. I don't want to just sit here and like counter all your spells. Yeah, I mean it kind of like wears them down. You know, like their overall like just what they're trying to do. Everything that they're trying to do, you kind of have an answer for, and then eventually you slowly kind of just take over. And when the coast is clear and you're ready to go, you just get those miniatures out. Smack them with a bunch of these bad boys.
Right, and they have haste, so they're ready to go.
Yeah,
they can defend right away, or when they're ready, they can attack.
Yeah, I guess that is true. They're if you have to, they're pretty good blockers. It's hard to get through 2, 3. So 4 power and 6 toughness. It's really hard to get any combination of that through.
Let me ask you one question though. What have you ever thought about a Chaomancer in here to get back?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely. There's so many really good blue cards. There's so many like really good blue value engines. Right. But it's once again it comes back to any combination of piece of the puzzle, and then like, well, I was gonna hold up this, but like Flurry of the Horns. Literally everything in this deck that isn't in the sideboard, and it's only the Gorilla Shaman and the Curse of the Pierced Heart. Everything, obviously besides the lands, is an instant or sorcery. Right. So everything can be hit off of pieces of the puzzle. Okay. So you can't risk like missing off of it. And
so like, just a couple
that's not the game plan that you want to play.
A couple creatures like Archaeomancer or Mold Drifter might throw you off that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could, sure, but I think just sticking to the game plan is just going to end up being that much better. Like, you have way more card draw than a lot of the other blue decks, because not many other blue decks are playing accumulated knowledge. In fact, close to 0 of them. Right. And, like, who cares if you... I feel blasphemous for saying this, but, like, who cares if you have Mold Drifter in this deck? Like, you're not... I want to say you're not winning through damage, because, like, you're not winning just by attacking with Mold Drifter. You eventually do have to do damage, but, like, you're winning because your creatures come from spells. Right. Okay. And you're just outvaluing. You stabilize, and then you just draw a million cards and just run over your opponent. Literally, run over with hasty Minotaurs. So yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it actually looks really scary the more I look at it. Because it looks like you have just so many outs and so many ways to manipulate the board until it seems really frustrating to go up against this. Like like an uphill battle the whole time. It definitely is. Until like what is he gonna do? Like eventually, and then you throw these Minotaurs out of nowhere. Like what does that card do again? Oh, 2/3 haste. Yeah, the draft chaff that you don't even remember back in Theros block. Draft chaff. Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that's pretty fun. If you want another idea for your Pauper deck to bring to your Pauper tournaments, try this one out. Just have some patience, and don't mind if people are going to be a little teeny weeny upset with you. But that's magic. I mean, exactly. Blue-red spells. So. Yeah, blue-red spells. Super fun. Decklist is down below. Give us a comment if you think maybe we need to change up the sideboard a little bit, or play around with a couple other spells. And this is Mike. Dash. And we'll see you next time.